Hi, everybody. So I'm reading, of course, from Transforming Suffering into Wisdom, a book I wrote a number of years ago. And today we have a very unusual chapter, but I think it's a lot of fun. We'll see if we can do it in this so-called reading of the chapter. It's actually a series of cartoons. It's on the habit of suffering. And again, we're trying to understand. I mean, I find this so fascinating because suffering has a structure. It happens the same way over and over again. And as a consequence, there are ways we can analyze it, break it apart, deal with it imaginatively, emotionally, so that it no longer plagues us. So I'm going to share a structure that looks at suffering both in a kind of on the positive side, things where we want to grasp and hold to ourselves, things we want to push away, and then things we're just bored with. So here's the image. Again, this is Habits of Suffering. We'll see if we can hold up here. You might have a copy of my book and you might just look at it, but you'll see that the top section is on craving, and the one below it is on our aversion to broccoli or whatever it is that we're averse to. And you can pause this and just kind of study the cartoons. And then the final one is on boredom, which is a very interesting one. We normally don't think of boredom as being particularly intense, but an awful lot of our moments are neutral moments. And we get stuck just as easily, just as thoroughly in those neutral moments. So just to break these apart and distinguish them just a bit, each of them starts with a sensation. And you can see that if you go back and look at the cartoon again. And then we move from sensation to either liking the sensation or not liking the sensation, or kind of neutral about the sensation. The third thing that happens then is that we go further by repeating that liking or not liking or neutrality. We tend to fall into either craving the object, feeling aversion toward the object, wanting to push it away, or becoming bored with the object. And that's really where the trouble starts, because if we fall into those three, they are addictive and they're powerful responses inside of ourselves. So the next cartoon, the next piece of the cartoon, the fourth segment, is either clinging. And in the first case, it's clinging to ice cream or a particular kind of ice cream. And the second is being very, in a way, clinging to our aversion, really hating that here we are at this dinner party and there's this plate of broccoli in front of us and we just can't stand broccoli. So feeling all kinds of aversion to that. And then the final one was about visiting Uncle Bob and not really being very interested. And so the boredom, in a way, we cling to that boredom again. We keep playing over and over in our mind, oh, this is so boring. Oh, I can't stand, why am I doing this? And imagining escapes, fantasy escapes, which keeps us kind of locked in this mental state of really attached, as much as we don't like it, to boredom. So the final state that happens in each of these is about a kind of becoming all of this and falling into kind of suffering and blanking out. Most of us don't realize that when we do suffer, we blank out. But that's really what happens, is we lose our freshness of being. We lose being awake. And we lose seeing things clearly. And that's really the problem, in a way, with this habit, this frame, this cycle of suffering. Because if we fall into blanking out, what wakes us up? And the answer is spontaneously, we get awoken by the next sensation. Whether it's and then again, we fall into this pattern. Well, this sensation, is it a positive one? So do I like it, or do I not like it? Or is it kind of neutral? And there we are, once again, going through the whole pattern, moving toward a kind of clinging, which could take the form of averting or falling into boredom, and then becoming and suffering and blanking out again. So one of the terms that's used often in spiritual practices is waking up or awakening. I talk a lot about it in my teaching. And really what I think we aim for and what mindfulness delivers for us is more and more awake moments. And if we're awake, we see that, oh gosh, I like that. There's a beautiful, image of a flower or ice cream or whatever it is. I like that. But we're aware that if we start to crave it, we'll be clinging and then fall into suffering. So rather than do that, we know that we want to stay awake. So we keep returning to the present moment with the joy, the energy of awakening instead. So it's quite amazing. But dealing with suffering delivers us many more moments in just an hour, but certainly in a lifetime, certainly in a day, many more moments of joy, of presence, of being here. Even though part of the work, is confronting, recognizing those dark feelings, or the clinging, or the aversion, or the boredom. It's extraordinary when we open our eyes and see what's there. We see the way free. Mindfulness is the best thing I know for it. Okay, thank you.